Next case is John Gilbert and Aaron Gilbert. No, Mr. Gilbert is in the Zoom booth. Mr. Lawrence is here. Is Aaron Gilbert here? All right. Mr. Lawrence, have you had a chance to meet with the parties recently?
Yes, Your Honor. On Friday, April the 28th, I was at the clerk's office and I observed Mr. Gilbert there filing documents. And I got a chance to ask him about the status of his substance abuse evaluation. And what I understood was that that was one of the documents that he was filing with the court. So I looked in Odyssey yesterday to see what the evaluation said. And it turns out that all it was just a hair follicle exam that was administered on April the 18th. And it was a 5-panel test that came back negative for the drugs tested. So we still don't have our substance abuse evaluation.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gilbert, any response to that?
I do not have a drug problem. I passed the test. Throughout this whole thing, I've been famous at work. It was all over the internet. I had to go talk to HR. They've already gave me a drug test. I've already took your hair follicle test. There is nothing. I submitted the police report. The sheriffs that showed up out at the house that night said there's allegations that did not make sense that she made against me. All of this stuff. I have did everything. I am so tired of fighting for my rights here and stuff and being forced to go prove this, go prove this, go prove this. You've got a drug test. You've got everything. I have lost the most important thing to me, my visitation rights with my kid. I never took my kid up to the house when me and Brenda weren't getting along. I would not put my kid in harm's way, but I am the only one that lost visitation rights to my kid. I do not understand. You've got a drug test. I've been drug tested through work. No company's letting you work for them when it's all over the internet and stuff. I've continuously missed work and come into court nonstop. There was never any charges filed. There was nothing.
Mr. Gilbert, I did see the negative test, and I'm glad that that was negative. Let me ask you a couple questions. If I were to order initially a supervised visit between you and your son, is there somebody that you would feel could serve in that capacity?
Why do you want to humiliate me that bad?
I don't want to humiliate you. I want to make sure your son remains safe.
My son has got no violence on my record, no nothing. We've got kids at the house all the time. I've never did anything wrong. There is nothing in my background. I do not understand how all this is coming about. I mean, to have to stoop to visitation rights. I'm a father. If you look back for the last 5 years, I've did nothing but fight for my rights to visit my kid. I was told through the courts and everything else, if I moved to Toutle, even in the guardian life report, I would get more time with my kids. I stated to the court, as soon as I moved to Toutle, she would move. I moved to Toutle 2 months later. She sold the house that meant so much to her and everything else and stuff and moved out of Toutle. I lost every other weekend. And now on nothing, visitation rights. I pay my child support. I do my thing. My kid is the world to me. I would like to know where this is coming from.
It's coming from a sworn statement that was filed with the police department by your current wife.
Did you read?
I need to make sure that your son is safe. And initially, I'd like to see supervised visits.
Will you please read the police report I turned in?
I did read it.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. This is Gilbert, and I'm just jumping on. I was never notified about this court date.
Let me take a look here, see if I had. There was one set for last week, but the judges changed the schedule, so there was a document sent out changing the hearing date till today. So I apologize you didn't get notice, but you're here now.
Oh, I mean, I didn't get notice about it last week either, so I don't know anything about what's going on.
Well, we weren't here last week. Let me start from the beginning. Mr. Gilbert has turned in a hair follicle test that is negative. Mr. Lawrence has indicated that he hasn't done the substance abuse evaluation that we had discussed. I turned to Mr. Gilbert and asked if there was somebody who could preside over supervised visits for a few weeks. And he had a very strong negative reaction to that. So since Ms. Gilbert, you're here now, I will let you respond if you'd like.
I mean, I just feel completely unprepared. I didn't know anything about any of this. Does he not have to serve me? But yeah, I mean, I honestly just feel completely unprepared. I would definitely still want him to do the evaluation. Supervised visitation would be good. I guess I don't know what the proper protocol is.
You seriously think I need supervised visitation, right? You don't think I love my kid more than anything?
Well, apparently
Okay,
not more than
let
drugs,
me let you know, just a minute. Your attitude today is causing me more concern than anything. Okay.
Thank you. That's exactly.
I am wanting to protect your son, and you're yelling at the judge, and that is completely inappropriate and makes me more concerned. All right. I'm trying to figure out a way for you to see your son in a way that I know everybody's going to be safe. Now, you can work with me on that, or you can continue to yell at me. I don't care which, but I'll tell you, if you yell at me, we're not going to get anywhere. Now, want to work with me on that?
Yes, sorry, I was not yelling at you. This is the most hurtful thing I've ever been through in my life. Anybody you pick for supervised visitation rights, go right ahead.
All right. I understand we don't have an SUD assessment. We do have a hair follicle test that's completely negative. It gives me some relief that Mr. Gilbert probably does not have a drug issue. But in the at this point, I think the initial visits need to be supervised and see how they go. Ms. Gilbert, is there somebody you would feel comfortable with supervising those visits?
I mean, just the problem is that, you know, we just don't get along so great, and our families don't. I can't even think of anybody who would be a, you know, I can't think of the right word, but just a third party that would have no affiliation. Yeah.
How about Jeff Erskine?
The thing is, I mean, I haven't even had any time to think about it. I don't even know if supervised, I mean, My rationale is that John is angry, and so I do not believe he would hurt Max. I just know that John would hurt me. And so I don't know. I know that anybody on his side would lie. I don't know. This is just a mess.
Excuse me, Your Honor, but she just said I would never hurt my kid.
But you would hurt me. And hurting me is, or hurting, if your main goal is hurting me and you have to hurt Max to accomplish that, I believe you would. You would not just hurt Max because, you don't like him. You would hurt him to get back at me.
All right, let me go back to Mr. Lawrence. Any thoughts on this, Mr. Lawrence?
Well, Your Honor, in my dealings with this family, one of the things that I've noticed is that Brenda, John's current wife, was always a staunch supporter of his. For her to go out on the end of the limb like she did by posting what had happened that day was a real departure from that relationship dynamic. And it appeared that she was very afraid of his behavior during that time. Mr. Gilbert has not even admitted that he has done anything wrong. Just because the police didn't charge him doesn't excuse the behavior. And so at this point, I see him minimizing all over the place, and which gives me great concern. And this resistance to getting the substance abuse evaluation, knowing full well that it's going to interfere with his visitation with his son, it appears that not getting the evaluation is more important to him. And so I have some real concerns. I know that both the families are really have had issues over the years. If we're talking supervised visits, I think the only option would be professionally supervised visits through reconnecting families.
All right. I want Mr. Gilbert to have a way to see his son.
Thank you.
I understand he hasn't done the substance abuse evaluation. That order will remain in place and needs to be done. It sounds like that really the only way we can do this is to order supervised visits through an organization called Reconnecting Families. And Mr. Gilbert will need to contact them, set up a time for the visit. Ms. Gilbert, you'll need to cooperate with bringing your son over for those visits.
When is that, Your Honor? What place do I have to contact?
You'll need to call an organization called Reconnecting Families. Tell them you're setting up supervised visits and work out a time that will work for both you and Ms. Gilbert. Ms. Gilbert will probably bring your son over a few minutes before you get there, so she can leave, and then you'll show up. You'll have your supervised visit. Mr. Gilbert will need to pay for those visits. I'm going to allow one a week for 4 to 6 hours. Hopefully we can get that done, and let's come back here in a month and see how that went. So we'll be back here on June 7th.
Your Honor, can I please ask what else will there be so I can get back to a normal life, feeling like a father again?
We'll see how the supervised visits go, and then we'll make those decisions.
Can I ask Keith one thing?
Why don't you call him afterward and talk to him? Okay. All right, so the evaluation order remains. You can have visitations that are supervised through reconnecting families, 1 visit a week for 4 to 6 hours. And we'll be back here on June 7th.
Can I just revisit the I was not served anything for this? Is that not a problem?
I'm sorry that happened. That was through the court. Do you want to come back next week and discuss this again? I'm not sure my decision's gonna change. But if you feel you need.
I guess not necessarily, but even, the reconnecting families and all of this is just so weird and a lot for Max to go through. And yeah, I just wish I would have had more time to think about it, but I guess this is what we're gonna do.
Let me invite you to call Mr. Lawrence, and I think he can answer all of your questions about that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So everybody be back here on June 7th at 9 o'clock. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.